Hi, my name is Annette Fletcher. We are going to be sharing the stories of volunteers. But before we do that, we are going to share a bit about Peace Corps, its vision, and its mission. The Peace Corps is a service opportunity for motivated changemakers to immerse themselves in a community abroad, working side by side with local leaders to tackle the most pressing challenges of our generation. The Peace Corps mission is to promote world peace and friendship by fulfilling 3 goals. 1, to help the people of interested countries in meeting their need for trained men and women. 2, to promote a better understanding of Americans on the part of the people served. And 3, which is what this series is all about, to help promote a better understanding of other people on the part of Americans. Thank you for joining us.
Hi everyone, my name is Julie Sadofsky and I am an RPCV from the Dominican Republic. So I served in the Dominican Republic from 2015 to 2018 and I've been living here off and on ever since. So fun fact, I'm currently in a technology center in a town where I served in the Peace Corps. So there might be some background noise and I just apologize in advance for that. So I'd like to preface this conversation by saying that this video is about the impact Peace Corps had on the communities I served and also myself. If you are interested in learning about like what the Peace Corps is and what it does, or even apply, I'd recommend checking out the Peace Corps website at peacecorps.gov at the end of this video. Also, you're likely to hear some acronyms during this conversation, so I thought I'd just tell you what they are because I am sure they're going to come up. So if you hear PC, that means Peace Corps. PCV is Peace Corps Volunteer. This one's kind of large. RPCVL is a Regional Peace Corps Volunteer Leader. RPCV, which I've already mentioned, is a Returned Peace Corps Volunteer. So someone that has completed their service and returned to where their home is, that is an RPCV. And then the DR is the Dominican Republic. So lastly, it's important to note that each Peace Corps volunteers experience is different. So even if we've served in the same country, we can have completely different experiences. So for example, I identify as a white cisgender woman, and with that I've had some unique privileges and also some disadvantages in the DR. So I just want that to be known before we get started. So without further ado, let's jump right into who I am. So just to give you some background of who I am, as I said, my name is Julie. I'm 28 years old. I was born and raised in Omaha, Nebraska. I entered the Peace Corps shortly after graduating from college at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and I was only 22 years old at the time. But I had already had a lot of experience living and serving abroad, which I think helped tremendously with like adapting to life in the DR and also integrating into my service communities. So let's talk about my Peace Corps experience. My experience is unique in that I didn't just serve 27 months, I served for 3 years in the DR. So typically a volunteer will serve for 27 months, it's a little over 2 years. But I extended my service, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So my primary assignment was a Spanish literacy facilitator in a small community on the Haitian-Dominican border called Guayhayuco. So that was the name of the small town. So for 2 years, I lived in this small, isolated rural community. It was like the furthest site from Santo Domingo, which is the capital. So it did require some creative transportation to get there. The population of my site was about 600 people, give or take, so fairly small. Just to give you an idea of like the environment, there was minimal running water, no electricity nor cell service. Like I said, it's not cut out for everyone, that kind of site, but it's something that I wanted. I wanted to have like the full Peace Corps experience, and so I asked for a site like this, and Guayhayuco was definitely what I wanted. So I was really grateful to be there. So regardless of like the isolation and minimal to no access to resources, the community was a really special place to be. So once I got there, I was just blown away with how remarkable and beautiful the community was and still is. And the people were so kind and genuinely cared about their fellow community members, and they wanted to see the community progress, which is important to have that intrinsic motivation. So I was really grateful to to be there and for everyone to be so welcoming during my service. Once I completed my service in Guayuco, so after 2 years, I was selected to extend my service for 10 months and serve as the Regional Peace Corps Volunteer Leader. That was the acronym RPCVL. So that's it's a fun fact, that's where I'm currently living now. So Restauración is a small town of about 6,000 people, and it does have access to resources. So there is running water, electricity, things like that. I was chosen to partner with the Dominican Education District Office and collaborate with administrators and teachers in the school district. So as an RPCPL, I also acted as like a liaison between Peace Corps staff and the regional volunteers placed in this like northwest part of the country. Okay, so as a volunteer, I focused on training teachers and literacy methodology and promoting student academic success, and then also increasing parental participation in education. So those like 3 components. I worked closely with teachers, with students, and community members to promote innovative teaching methods for learning Spanish. So you might think like, why would a non-native Spanish speaker, because I'm a non-native Spanish speaker, be teaching Spanish literacy methodology? And I would ask myself the same question at times. But there's a lot to be said about teaching the fundamentals of any language, which could take hours. But I feel that as someone who studied Spanish at all academic levels and was able and also received an amazing technical training during Peace Corps, I was able to bring like a unique perspective to my service. So I too was, and still am, right, learning Spanish. So I could put myself in those students' shoes and support them with their academic progress. So the Dominican education system, there's a lot to be said about, what's going on in the Dominican education system, but just really briefly wanted to set the tone that it's been struggling in areas of Spanish, math, and science for a number of years, and has had reported some of the lowest numbers in Latin America. So these reports have prompted involvement of institutions like the Peace Corps. There's a lot of NGOs that support education, to just try to provide a quality education for all and improve those areas of study. So in my primary site, Guayuco, I served in the Escuela Básica, which is like the elementary school, and worked typically with kindergarten to 3rd grade. I also served like 2 other nearby elementary schools. So in the process of serving in 3 different locations at the same time, I was fortunate to collaborate with a lot of amazing teachers and administrators in those schools. And I also worked with like just a really bright, talented students and young adults. So I saw through the course of working with them, I saw some real results with their literacy progress. And overall, my primary project was like a life-changing experience because it truly taught me to value education. Because you can see the impact education and the lack of education has on people's lives. So I remember I would call my mom up when I was able to get service, like I'd have to leave town and call her up. And I just would just tell her how grateful I am for my education. Because when you see the education system here in the DR failing their students and their teachers, you want to do everything you can to support them. And you want to give them that education. So I believe that change can happen on a micro level through collaboration, but ultimately reform needs to come from within the Ministry of Education as a whole to see those reports change and see real academic progress nationwide. So if I could describe my experience in one word, I would say overwhelming. But many people think like overwhelming is they hear it in a negative context. But I think it actually just means having a strong emotional effect. And so, someone once said that Peace Corps is the hardest job you'll ever love. And it's really true, because the experience really consumes you. If you let it, if you're present in that moment, it will. So it's like overwhelming, because it has all these unique experiences, these emotions, you have these long lasting memories with people. And in my Peace Corps experience, there were definitely times that I felt jaded, right? Because there's a lot of work. But I didn't let that detract from my purpose, the reason why I was serving. So for the sake of time, I identified 3 reasons why I served in the Peace Corps. So I wanted to, 1, build long-lasting relationships with community members. I also wanted to have just like an impactful experience serving abroad in another country. And lastly, like I wanted to establish sustainable programs in the communities I was serving. So let's break down each one of those components. So the first one, long-lasting relationships with community members. So generally speaking, professional relationships in the DR are seen differently than in the United States. Relationships with my community members needed to be personal before they could be fruitful professional relationships. So, for example, my counterpart, or the person that was assigned to work and collaborate with me, was the Guayhayuco school director. So we started, a professional relationship because it was pre-established by Peace Corps. Like their involvement definitely gave me clout in my position, but I still had to work to build trust in our relationship. So it wasn't until we developed a personal relationship that he began to trust in my abilities as a volunteer. So what I mean by personal relationship, I just mean, taking the time to get to know the person, like about their life, their family, their history, what are their values, what are they passionate about? And taking that time to get to know my community members was like the most, impactful experiences of my life. And I think one of my greatest accomplishments as well, which I'll talk about later. They got to know more about me, the United States, and in turn, I learned so much about them and the Dominican Republic. So during my time in Guayhayuco, I collaborated with around 30 teachers for monthly professional development workshops on everything from classroom management, literacy strategies, making, didactic materials. And I also co-taught with some of those teachers to help improve like student-centered literacy and, utilizing classroom resources. So I was really fortunate to have partnered with all of those professionals, and also with some young adults who were studying in the local university. I worked and trained them to become part of the literacy intervention program. So I worked with them, we evaluated the students, and they ultimately led the program. So I also, participated in a lot of different teacher trainings, got to know a lot of other volunteers and their teachers in their communities. So that was amazing to have that experience. I can honestly say that during my time in Guayhayuco, I had both professional and personal relationships with almost all of my teachers and directors. Like I said, I think that was my biggest accomplishment, was like really getting to know all of them on a personal level. It does require a lot of work, but it really pays off in the end, because you can see like, you can just have so much more, make so much more happen within those relationships if you have that trust established. So before we move on, I talked about a lot about my primary project. So on that same note, I wanted to say that it's kind of hard to express the impact that my primary project had on my life, because there's so many ways it's influenced me in ways that I don't even realize. So I will say that during my service, I began to value education so much more. And in turn, I saw others also value education. I did witness many more students and parents involved in their education and academic progress. So that's really important. I saw teachers replicating the practices they learned during the workshops. So overall, I know the community members had a huge impact on my life and the way that I view the world, education, people, culture, and the list goes on. So given that I live so close to my primary site, I only live like an hour away from Guaycayuco. I do visit from time to time, generally not during a pandemic. It's kind of been challenging to see people during this time. But I love to hear all the stories that they say about like their experiences working or spending time with me. It shows that I've truly touched their lives and, you know, will forever be in their memories. And I can say the same, them for me, without a doubt. I feel like I have a second home there and so many people that I can call family. So I'm really grateful for that. Okay, so going to the second reason why I wanted to serve in the Peace Corps was to have like an impactful learning experience. So I think it's important, it was important for me to have a complete Peace Corps experience in the sense that I wanted to be present in my site. So I wanted to be present in my site, serve in every way I could, and also be involved in trainings and visit other people and see what they're doing. I think it's really important that you know, you are present in what you're doing, but also you get a chance to learn from other people and see what they're doing in their sites. So in addition to my primary project, I also partnered with various local and international health organizations to facilitate medical missions, translate for those missions. I was selected to interpret for an intensive week-long surgical mission in the capital in Santo Domingo. And so I assisted plastic surgeons and their medical team in patient-doctor communication, which was amazing, right? Amazing experience. During my service, I also participated in site identification. So it's like looking at like what sites would be available or available to receive volunteers. So by visiting those prospective sites, got to meet a lot of amazing people, provided orientations to host families and preparing counterparts to receive volunteers. Also in my role during my third year as the leader, I was able to support volunteers, give them feedback on monthly reports, visited those volunteers, and assisted with any projects that they had going on. Also coordinated regional meetings and was able to observe volunteer collaborations and help them with any problems. So that leadership experience, you know, was definitely an important part of my Peace Corps service. So I'm really grateful to have received and facilitated and led trainings around the country. During those trainings, I learned a lot of valuable information about the DR, service work, and myself. I loved that these trainings were led by different people. So, you know, Dominicans, Peace Corps staff, PCVs, all of those perspectives are really unique. So it was amazing to have so many different facilitators during those trainings. One of my most memorable workshops was called the Same-Sex Couples Initiative from Peace Corps headquarters. A select few of us PCVs were asked to be a part of this initiative, and we were able to learn about like Peace Corps' initiative to welcome same-sex couples to the DR. So same-sex couples have served with Peace Corps around the world. And so we wanted to prepare this post in the DR to receive those couples. And so during the training, I spoke about sharing my experience as a marginalized volunteer. And I was really enlightening to hear from other people in the LGBTQA community and just bring awareness of like the importance of diversity and inclusion in Peace Corps, Dominican Republic as a whole. So the third reason that I wanted to serve in the Peace Corps was to establish sustainable programs. And so like in the first site, I was serving, like I mentioned, I was serving 2 other small communities in addition to my assigned site. So in 3 rural schools, school counselors, university students, and I evaluated over 100 students in 1st through 3rd grade. So we assessed reading and writing comprehension levels. We created tailored reading intervention program, which I mentioned earlier. So during that literacy intervention program, I partnered with and supervised 2 university students who ultimately ended up leading the literacy intervention program even after I completed my service. So initially I conducted like the week-long training with the students, and then they became the literacy facilitators. And the school counselor and those facilitators, you know, we would do weekly workshops, and we evaluated those students even, I think it was the initially and then 9 months after, and we saw 75% of the students increase at least 1 reading level during that 9-month period. So, and then over the course of 2 years, we saw 100% of students increase reading level from the students that were in the literacy intervention program. I will say that their progress is not entirely all contributed to us in our literacy intervention program, because they were also receiving regular class at the time. So we do recognize that, you know, their classroom time and this one-on-one literacy program contributed to them progressing and advancing to the next reading level. So following my Peace Corps service, the methods and practices used in the literacy intervention program continued in the small groups and were utilized by teachers in the classroom as well. So I will say, however, due to COVID, all classes have moved virtually, which has been a huge learning curve for all of, you know, for teachers and for students, for everyone. And there are many students that don't have access to resources. So they're not able to watch or listen to the classes, especially in rural areas. So it has been really problematic this year. So it will be interesting to see like what will happen the next school year after, the next school year. So in addition to the literacy intervention program, Guayayuco's school counselor and I adopted a peer tutoring program from the Ministry of Education. And that was, you know, with help of the teachers and the students, we were able to train high school students to do like weekly read alouds with 1st through 4th grade classes. So that was really great. It's kind of like a, you know, buddy system, reading with your buddy. So following my service, occasionally those students, those older students would still read to those younger students, which is really great. Additionally, I introduced a district-wide spelling bee for students 4th through 8th grade to improve their study habits and also spelling skills. I collaborated with my school directors and teachers to prepare students through competitive in-class activities and like school-wide practice spelling bees. I feel like this is one of the most impactful experiences in my primary project, given that it involved the entire community, like the students, teachers, directors, parents, everyone was involved. Even after I completed my time in Guayayuco, the school still continued to participate in that regional spelling bee. Overall, I feel like the word sustainable is a little bit subjective. Like, you know, how long does a program need to go on before it's sustainable? So I think like technically sustainable means to like maintain over a certain amount of time. So I do feel like most of the programs were sustainable. But I think it's also important to say that education is constantly evolving and improving. So I would hope that the teachers would build upon the literacy methods they learned and find, even find new and improved methods. I think it's interesting that like my technical training that I received when I was a trainee is completely, and this was in 2015, it's completely different than what the trainees are receiving now in the education sector. So because there's new methods and that are being introduced. So what I do feel will be sustained in my my experience are like my memories, my relationships with fellow PCV friends and community members. And obviously, I have my Dominican family in the Campo. I think that will be sustained for a long time. And then also, during my third year of Peace Corps, I met my husband, and we have a family together. And so, I feel like that also hopefully be sustainable part of my, my Peace Corps service. So there you have it. If you've listened to this entire video, I applaud you. If you have any follow-up questions about, my service or anything that I talked about, please feel free to look me up via social media. Like I said, my name is Julie Sadofsky, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for sharing your story with us. Our volunteers are change makers, ready to partner with communities to make a difference. Every Peace Corps volunteer's experience is unique, and so is the service of every volunteer. If you are interested in service, please check out peacecorps.gov. There are recruiters there to help you and a wealth of information to educate you on the service of Peace Corps volunteers. Thank you so much for joining us.